A broken clock is right twice a day, and in the case of Netflix, they get it right twice a year, maybe. Because although I've been crapping on Netflix the last couple weeks, especially with the release of The Electric State, and I'm just not very happy with the company, they did just put out another phenomenal limited series, which seems to be a new thing with Netflix. Early every year, they just drop like a random limited series that ends up being a hit. Last year was Baby Reindeer. This year, it's Adolescence. This is the brand new series directed by Philip Barantini. It's also co-produced by Stephen Graham, who's also one of the leads in the show. This is an extremely unique limited series that's 4 episodes, 4 hours of total television time. And it tells the story of this kid, Jamie Miller, who is arrested for allegedly murdering another 13-year-old girl. Now, at the beginning of the show, we don't know if Jamie did it. We don't know what actually transpired, and you really go into this story extraordinarily blind. So because of that, I'm not going to spoil anything for you here other than that premise. It's about a kid who gets arrested for a murder, and you don't really know what's going on. And you follow a bunch of different perspectives. The first episode mainly being from the family's perspective, from Stephen Graham, and watching them sort of take in what's going on, the arrest, the interrogation, the whole booking process. The other following episodes follow different perspectives. They follow the detectives, a psychiatrist. And although this show at the forefront could really come off as being a typical, like, almost true crime type story, even though this is not true crime, but just a simple detective murder story, that's not what this show is. This show is a study of something a little bit deeper. It's a study of, like, the male complex. Not just the male complex, but, like, the alpha male complex and incel culture and the really dark depths of the internet and how they can sort of influence the youth of today. It's a show that also studies how an event, a horrible thing, can affect a family in a very unique way. A family that is now grieving and having to experience something that's a little bit more different than the typical grief we see on television. This is not a depiction of a family that, you know, loses a loved one and have to suffer the consequences of that. This is more about a family that now has to take in the consequences of the action of somebody else, which is a very fascinating thing to study on television or on screen or in scripting, and I really appreciated that. The one thing this show also does that is incredibly unique, and it's one of the reasons why I'm calling this show brilliant, especially in the title of this video, is how this thing was made. So Adolescence, and I did not know this going into the show, every episode here is filmed in one take. Now, I know what you're thinking. There's a lot of movies, a lot of television that does this sort of format of filmmaking, of directing. If you've seen the movie 1917 or Birdman, they're shot to look like the whole thing is one take, but in actuality, it's a bunch of separate takes and they hide the cuts. It's movie magic. It's TV magic, right? Nobody's actually crazy enough to do long-form storytelling in one take because, I mean, not only would that be extremely expensive, unpredictable, but it would also just be kind of impossible. So watching the first couple episodes of the show, I just kind of assumed that's what they were doing. They were just hiding cuts in places. But no, this is 4 hours of television and it's 4 shots. They did each one of these episodes in one unbroken take. And my God, the respect I have for these filmmakers. It's unbelievable what they were able to accomplish here, and it set a bar of filmmaking and of just television making in the art form of storytelling in long-form media. It set the bar so ridiculously high that I don't think anybody else can even attempt to do a one long-take episodic television show ever again, because it's only ever going to be compared to this, and I don't know if you can get better than this without it being messy or insanely over-budgeted. This is one of the most impressive feats of filmmaking I've ever seen in my life. So essentially each one of these episodes had to be rehearsed and booked and played out like a stage play. Over months of time, they had to really rehearse and block out every single movement. They also had to figure out exactly how they were going to film each scene, how they were going to light each scene, how they were going to capture sound in each scene. So it's really a complex process of having to map out this whole thing. And it would be very easy if these episodes took place in like 2 rooms and you're just bouncing between 2 rooms. But no, a couple of these episodes, they take place in a house, and then you're outside the house, and then you're in a car driving around the town, which, did they actually drive around the town? How did they block that out and plan out the perfect timing for the car to get to its destination on time? I don't know. How did they do that all safely? I don't know. But they somehow apparently did it, and then the car stops, and they're at a new location, and they're going in there, and then they're back in the car, and they're driving. Like, it's so impressive and so complex. I would love to have been there to watch them film this, although I can't imagine how miserable the process probably was. Because can you imagine being like 45 minutes into a take and it's going brilliant, and then like somebody in the cast sneezes? Like, yeah, that would be horrible. But man, the final product and what they got here, it's incredibly impressive and amazing. And I think on that fact alone, whether this story actually grips you and what the show is actually doing actually grips you, whether that happens to you or not, I think this is worth the watch just because it is so unique in how they did this, and I think filmmakers should be studying this one, because god damn it, man. If you're an aspiring filmmaker out there and you think it's too difficult to film something at home with an iPhone and a tripod and simple lighting, and that's too hard, I mean, look at this. They were able to do this, multiple locations, all these different things, a moving camera, moving lights, moving everything, like, and we're able to pull this off. This is impressive filmmaking, and just get out there and shoot something, because, God, filmmaking's amazing, man. But back to the story. The actual stuff that's going on here in the story that's being told, I found to be extremely gripping. Yet again, this is not much of a mystery story. This is not a story that's going to have a ton of twists and turns and surprises. Don't go into this expecting some big Stephen King-like plot twist in the middle of the story that flips the whole thing on its head. It's really not. It's basically a study of the people that are being... It's basically a character study of this kid, of the parents, of the detectives, of the kids surrounding Jamie, right? That's what this is. It's trying to study the minds of this situation. How does this happen? From all perspectives, how does an event like this actually take place? And the one thing you really need to sell that is phenomenal performances, and luckily, yeah, they have them here. Owen Cooper, who plays Jamie, who plays the kid, I believe, and I could be wrong, but I believe I saw an interview where this was his first ever experience acting. He had never acted before, and if I'm wrong on that, please correct me. But my god, he is one of the best child actors I've ever seen in my life. Incredibly powerful, super strong in portraying both the innocent side of Jamie, but also when he takes a turn and he plays a different version of the character, especially in episode 3, which I think is the episode most people are talking about. It's a massive standout episode from, like, all things. Definitely going to win some Emmys there, but my god, he's incredible. Especially in that episode, The Psychiatrist, which Erin Doherty, I believe is her name, is also absolutely marvelous. But the real standout performance here, and the one that I think needs all of the awards next award season, is Stephen Graham. My god, I've been following this guy for a while. You know, he's been in a bunch of different things. He was obviously one of the villains in the Venom movie. He is utterly unbelievable in this show. Unmatched in the actual raw emotion that he brings to the screen. I mean, this is a very complex situation that he's having to portray. A situation that I personally find very intriguing. It's something that I've wanted to write a screenplay on in the last couple years, because it's something that I feel like is not explored enough. What is it like being a parent of this specific situation? It's an unexplored topic, I think, that hasn't been touched on enough, and Stephen Graham does it in a way that is both respectful of the situation, of the ideas being portrayed here, but is so raw, and so, like, I mean, if you watch this performance and you come away not feeling something, not feeling some sort of emotion, or having a little bit of teary eyes, like, I don't know, you must just be like a serial killer yourself, I don't know. He's so unbelievable. The first episode, playing this character who's so confused and so unsure and sort of in denial and just not really understanding what's going on, to the last episode where the truth has become more clear and now he's having to sit in that and live life, and my god, brilliant, brilliant stuff. And the final scene of this show, I mean, I know it's not a movie, but give him a frickin' Oscar. Best performance of the year so far in movies or television. Stephen Graham, my god. Here's some invisible flowers. Amazing. I only have, like, 2 little gripes with this show. My first gripe is there's a scene in the second episode where one of the detectives says something like, you know what, in all these situations, we really only talk about the killer. We make the killer famous, we follow the killer. We never talk about the victim. We never show the victim or what they're going through or their families or anything. And I think it might have been a distinctive point to put that line in there while also acknowledging the fact that the show does not focus on the victim or the family of the victim, which I think was weird. I don't know if that was the idea. Like, of course, we're not showing the victim, and that's one of the problems of our real world, and we're trying to display that by participating in the problem. I don't know. But I think I would have liked to have seen the perspective of the victim's family or what's going on in that world. I think it would have added a little bit of an element to the show, but I understand the artistic choice, if it was an artistic choice, of not doing that. If it was not an artistic choice, maybe they just forgot. I don't know. I also think with a show like this, a little bit of it is almost cheap emotion. And what I mean by that, because I know cheap is kind of like a bad word, it's one of those stories where as long as you have good performances, as long as you have actors who are going to do their jobs, this is an easy story to get emotion out of an audience. It's a very simple concept. Yet again, I won't go into spoiling anything, but it's a very, very simple concept. You take this situation, you put it on screen, you get actors that can perform the material even just okay. For example, it's like if I tell a story about a mom and a son who are super, super close and they love each other very much, and the mom gets cancer and she passes away, and I have a really good actor to play the boy and he gets very upset about it. That's going to be sad. the audience is going to be upset about that. Now, is that cheap emotion? I don't know, but it's easy. It's an easy way to pull emotion from the audience, and I felt like there were a lot of moments throughout the show where it felt very easy. And I don't know if it's just because the actors are so freaking good, or the subject matter is so, I don't know, raw or whatever, but there were times where I was like, I'm really upset. This is making me sad and teary-eyed, but is there a lot of substance here? And I had to sit and think about it, and I think some moments there was a ton of substance, and other moments it felt a little cheaper. If that makes sense. I don't know. That might just be me nitpicking stuff. I always love when you can get emotion out of me in a more, I don't know, complex way, where there's a story that's not as simple and it's more subtle, but I don't know. I sound like I'm like grandstanding filmmaking here. Or I wanna have that really high, elite level writing that could pull sadness out of me, not this cheap old bullshit. Yeah, that's not what I'm trying to say, but you know, I don't know. I'm nitpicking. Overall though, I really loved Adolescence. I'm going to give this a 4.5 out of 5 and a big recommendation that you take some time out of your weekend to give this one a try. Just know that if you're expecting this to be like a high, intense thriller, mystery, cop story, it's not that. It's something a little bit more thoughtful and artful, and you really have to sink your teeth into to get a lot out of it, I think, at least personally. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to like this video, subscribe for more notifications. I'll see you in the next one.